You know, when we think of master heists today, our minds almost always go straight to laser grids, impossible computer hacking, and those super slick high-tech Hollywood movies like Ocean's 11. We picture elaborate digital bypasses in modern Vegas casinos. But what if I told you that the most mathematically perfect, utterly flawless robbery in history didn't rely on a single microchip? Today in this explainer, we're diving into an incredibly precise crime where the victims didn't even realize they had been robbed until the stolen gold was already melted down and sold off.
The sheer audacity of it is going to blow your mind. This perfectly executed crime didn't happen recently. No, it happened all the way back in 1855. And it took place on a moving steam train cutting through the foggy night of Victorian England. The crew used absolutely zero violence, no guns, and left literally no trace. It was just pure analog brilliance. This is the story of the Great Gold Robbery, the ultimate 19th century heist. And to understand how they actually pulled this off, we first have to look at the massive obstacles standing in their way.
Section 1. The impenetrable target.
So back in the mid-1850s, the European economy relied heavily on physical wealth, meaning millions of pounds in gold bullion were regularly transported directly from London to Paris. This absolute fortune was shipped via the Southeastern Railway on a night train down to the English coast, where it was then loaded right onto a ship bound for France. To protect this staggering amount of wealth, the railway company didn't take any chances. They relied on Chubb safes. These massive, custom-built iron vaults were manufactured by Chubb, who were widely recognized as the absolute best locksmiths in the world at the time. They had incredibly thick iron walls and utilized a really specific dual-key mechanism to guarantee maximum security. The crucial thing to understand here is that these safes were considered literally impenetrable without the proper keys, so bypassing them by force on a moving train, yeah, that simply was not an option.
And this right here perfectly illustrates the genius of the railway's security system. It was a geographic impossibility. Remember that dual key mechanism? Well, one key was kept securely with the station master in London. The second, entirely separate key was held by the station master at the port city of Folkestone on the coast. That means even the armed guard physically riding on the train with the safes had absolutely no way to open them in transit. It was widely believed to be a completely foolproof system, impenetrable. Unless, of course, you somehow had the keys.
Section 2. Assembling the heist crew.
Any great caper relies on specialized archetypes, right? And this real-life 1855 crew fits that to a T. To bypass a supposedly foolproof system, you need a team. The mastermind was a guy named William Pierce. He was a disgruntled former railway clerk who really knew the ins and outs of the system. But Pierce needed highly specific technical help, which brings us to Edward Auger, a master forger and professional safecracker. To pull this off, though, they needed inside access. That's where William Tester, an active railway clerk with access to the tightly guarded train schedules, and James Burgess, a veteran train guard who actually rode in the vault car, come into play. Pierce's inside knowledge combined perfectly with Auger's technical skills and the access provided by Tester and Burgess. It was the perfect storm.
But here was the catch. They couldn't just steal the keys, because the railway would immediately notice and change the locks. They needed perfect copies. So for months, Auger meticulously stalked the railway officials. Through incredible patience and just a little inside help from Tester, Auger managed to get brief, seconds-long access to both of those heavily guarded keys. In just a flash, he pressed the heavy iron keys into blocks of soft green wax. Using those tiny, fleeting wax impressions, Auger retreated to a secret workshop where he spent weeks painstakingly filing down blank keys by hand until they were microscopically perfect.
Section 3. The moving train heist.
Okay, set the scene with me. It's May 15, 1855. Picture a foggy platform at London Bridge Station, the sound of hissing steam cutting right through the cold air. The railway just loaded 3 of those massive iron safes onto the train. Locked inside was our target, 200 pounds of solid gold bars. The physical weight alone is staggering, and the value would be worth millions in today's money. James Burgess, the inside man guard, locked the heavy doors of the vault car from the inside, seemingly sealing the gold away safely.
But hidden in the dark corner of that very guard's van was our master forger, Edward Auger. He was crouched in the shadows right next to several heavy carpet bags. As the train steamed out of London and into the pitch-black English countryside, Auger stepped out and went to work. Slipping his hand-filed forged keys into the impenetrable Chubb locks, he gave them a turn, and with a satisfying heavy click, the forged keys worked perfectly. Agar cracked the first safe and immediately began pulling out the gold bars.
Now here's where the plan is just next-level genius. The crew had to account for a secondary security measure. See, the railway weighed the safes at every single stop. If the safes were suddenly empty, the weight discrepancy would trigger an immediate alarm. So for every single pound of gold Agar took out of the safe, he replaced it with exactly 1 pound of lead shot, which he had smuggled aboard in those heavy carpet bags hidden in the shadows. He meticulously swapped the gold for lead, locked the safes back up without leaving a single scratch, and vanished right back into the dark.
When the night train finally reached the coast at Folkestone, mastermind William Pierce and safecracker Edward Agar just casually stepped off the train. Sure, they were carrying massive, incredibly heavy bags of quote-unquote luggage, but they blended right into the bustling crowd. Meanwhile, the railway company meticulously weighed the iron safes, saw that the weight was completely correct thanks to all that lead shot, and confidently sent them on a ship to Paris. The crew had literally just pulled off the perfect getaway.
Section 4. The perfect crime unravels.
It took days for the safes to reach Paris, leaving French authorities completely baffled by vaults full of useless lead shot. They had absolutely zero leads. The crew successfully melted down the gold, split the incredible fortune, and walked away rich men. The perfect crime was complete.
So how on earth did they get caught?
Well, after pulling off the flawless heist in May 1855, everything was smooth sailing for a year. But in 1856, Edward Agar was arrested for a completely unrelated crime, forging a check. Knowing he was inevitably heading to a harsh Victorian prison by late 1856, Agar gave his massive share of the gold to his partner, William Pierce. He trusted him to div the money to his girlfriend and their baby so they could survive while he was locked up.
And this is where the mathematical perfection of the crime gets completely destroyed by a deeply human flaw. There really is no honor among thieves. Pierce got greedy. He looked at that mountain of gold and decided to keep Agar's share entirely for himself. He totally abandoned his partner's family, leaving Agar's girlfriend and baby destitute. When she finally managed to visit Agar in prison and told him that they were literally starving, the master safecracker snapped.
Furious at the absolute betrayal by his partner, Agar didn't hesitate for a second. He called for the prison warden, sat down, and uttered a sentence that would ruin them all. I have a story to tell you about the Southeastern Railway. In an act of pure, unadulterated revenge, Agar snitched on the entire crew, handing the police every single meticulous detail of the supposedly unsolvable heist. Section 5. Legacy of the Robbery. The fallout was immediate and devastating for the crew. Pierce, Tester, and Burgess were all promptly arrested, tried, and sentenced to grueling hard labor in Australia. Think about that for a second. A flawlessly planned heist, years in the making, pulled off with absolute perfection, was utterly destroyed simply because one guy got greedy and wouldn't pay up to support his partner's child. But the impact went way beyond just the crew. The Great Gold Robbery terrified the global financial world. It forced banks and railways to completely revolutionize how they secured and transported wealth. It marked the definitive end of the era of analog trust, proving once and for all that even the most impenetrable physical systems could be broken by human ingenuity and ultimately human corruption.
It's an incredible piece of history that proves truth is often stranger and honestly more perfectly plotted than fiction. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think back to all those slick Hollywood capers we started with and ask yourself, knowing what you know now about the analog brilliance of 1855, what really is the greatest heist movie ever made? Could any scriptwriter dream up a better twist than a flawless robbery undone by petty greed? Keep that in mind next time you watch a vault get cracked on screen.